Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to be here with you today. And we're just going to give it a couple of seconds to let people find their way into us. In the meantime, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kelly. I'm a grief coach here at Lap of Love with the Pet Loss Support Team. And today I'm joined by one of the co founders of Lap of Love, Dr. Mary Gardner. Dr. Mary, it's so great to be here with you today.
Oh, it's so great to be here with you too, Kelly, and to talk about this very interesting topic. So thanks for
Absolutely.
inviting
Yep.
me.
Definitely. And you may know that our pet loss support community on Facebook here has grown immensely over the last few months, and it's remaining such a supportive and compassionate group and community. And this topic, animal communicators, is something that comes up fairly frequently. People ask for recommendations and then they give recommendations and tell their stories. So, since we thought, you and I have both had some experience that we could get together and kind of talk and tell our own stories. And if there's some time, answer a few questions.
Perfect.
Yeah. Before we jump into our own experiences, though, Dr. Mary, I was hoping that you could give us your opinion, a little insight on the role of animal communicators before your pet has passed. So let's say my pet has gotten a diagnosis and maybe the prognosis is poor or they're getting older and I'm questioning quality of life and decision making. What do you think about talking to an animal communicator at that point?
This is a great question, Kelly, and we're asking it out off the bat. So, but I think it's important to know that I am actually open to animal communicators. Like that's not my problem, and we're going to talk about my experience, right? But I do struggle with the concept of, and I know many people do this, reaching out to an animal communicator to find out if their pet thinks it's time. And I just want to challenge that for a few reasons, because let's say let's say you're at the vet office and you're with your golden retriever and the 12-year-old golden, and the veterinarian looks at both of you and says, your dog has lymphoma. You know your dog has cancer. You know that it's maybe 6 months left to live or something like that, right? But your dog doesn't know it all. He doesn't know these words, cancer. He doesn't understand that. So if you asked an animal communicator at that time, do you think he wants, he's what his thoughts are? He's going to be like, I'm having a great time right now. Like he doesn't understand the pain, discomfort, and suffering that is going to be present. And that's something very important with my oath as a veterinarian. It was not only to stop suffering, but prevent it from ever occurring. And we all know animals live in the moment, right? And so the moment might be okay for some pets, but we know in a week from now or in a month from now, it's going to be bad. And I do believe it's my obligation as a pet mom to make sure that I take away as many bad days as possible. And I have heard some stories from people that are working with a communicator, and they say your pet is not ready to go. And me as a veterinarian, I'm looking at that pet and I see active suffering, or I see really, really big struggles. And I guarantee you, Kelly, nobody on this call, nobody who owns a pet wants their pet to suffer. But we don't always see it really clearly. And so I caution people asking a communicator. And now on the other side of that, sometimes, a community, like the family wants to say goodbye, not wants to say goodbye. That's, is prepared to say goodbye, has done quality life assessments. They know physically the pet's not well. And the communicator may say, he's fine. He's not ready to go. So that like then counteracts what the owners are feeling. And on the other way, maybe we actually can do some palliative care. We do have some good quality of time, and the communicator's like, no, Rusty's ready to go. So I think it's a determining when to say goodbye. I think really needs to have a medical approach, needs to have a spiritual approach, needs to have an emotional approach. But the medical approach is key, is very important. So I really do worry about having the communicator being the one to make that decision or have a really high value placed on that, because pets don't know. Like we're not telling a pet, hey, you have Cushing's, you have cancer, you have this, you have that. Like, they just don't understand that. It's, dare I say, asking a 2-year-old, hey, do you know what it means to have this problem? And they just don't understand it. So, so that's just where I don't know if I articulated that really well, but that's where my struggle lies, Kelly.
Yeah, no, you absolutely did. And I really appreciate your insight and perspective on that. And I agree. I mean, I think we have to remind ourselves sometimes that our veterinary team and our families and ourselves, we're the best guides at that time for those decisions because that's who knows our pet the best. And I absolutely appreciate that perspective, definitely.
Good.
And as we said, you and I both have some experience speaking with an animal communicator. So if you'd like to start us off with your story and experience.
So that's what I wanted to say. Like, I am not anti them. I just, it's, I think it has its place. And I think a really good place is afterwards. And maybe some other reasons beforehand, but knowing when it's time, that everyone knows that's what I love to talk about. And but after, I think it could be very helpful. So, whatever someone believes, I think I'm going to support, right? So if someone believes in prayer, I'm not going to say, don't pray because it hasn't been disproven, right? And so in the same manner, we're so, as a society, we're culturally okay to say, you're in my thoughts and prayers. Well, you could talk to an atheist and be like, well, I don't pray, so you're not in my prayers, right? So it doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. So if somebody finds comfort in talking to a counselor, talking to a support team like you guys, talking to a communicator, then I support that decision. So no matter how crazy someone may think we are, if it helps, then that's all that matters, right? So I'm just going to say that because I think a lot of people will say that it is a little wonky to be thinking about this. So I'll tell you my experience, Kelly. I was helping a family once. This is when I lived in Southern California, and they had told me about a communicator they talked to and the experience they had with some living pets that she had mentioned some stuff. So I'm like, let me check this out, right? So again, I'm totally open to whatever, right? So so I made an appointment with her, but it was for a cat that I had lost. And I lost Goldie in a very traumatic way. I was not able to be present for her goodbye. And I always want to be present for my pet's passing. And there are some times where I've been out of town and I've had to Skype with them, but at least I could say I love you, say how much I enjoyed being with them, and say all the wonderful things I want to say to my pets as they're passing. But Goldie, sadly, she was taken by a coyote. So it was very traumatic for me. The loss was hard. I had all these questions. I had, guilt. But the biggest thing is I didn't get to say I love you to Goldie. And so I said, well, let me call this Miss Cooper up and do a little communication session with her. So I made the appointment, and so I wasn't holding anything back. I wasn't trying to test her, and say, like, does she know how she died, and see if this is. I wanted to be totally open to this. So I told her, how Goldie died, and she goes, okay, she asked to see a picture, and it was very interesting. So I did a little like, breathing exercise with her to settle my mind and my anxiety and things like that. And someone says they remember my Goldie. So, and then, so I settled myself down, and then she kind of channeled, if you will. I don't even know the right words, guys. So, please, I'm not an expert at this. I just had a couple experiences. So she kind of channeled Goldie, and she could have this conversation. And, but the biggest thing is that she said something that nobody else knew, and that Goldie had told her. And it was like, you couldn't. I'm very public on Facebook, on Instagram. I wasn't posting this stuff back then. Like there was no way anybody would have known this. So that's when I was like, okay, something's happening. And so thank you. Someone said channel's correct. And so anyway, I then was open to like just hearing more. And it was, she just said some interesting things to me. Like Goldie said, you know, Mom, I find it's cool here because I'm never hungry. Like it's where I'm at, like there's no such thing as hunger. And that just brought me some comfort, guys. Right. I don't know why. I was just like that. I never would have thought of that. So the biggest thing that my communicator helped me do is what I was missing, which was saying I love you to Goldie. Because now at this point, I kind of thought there's something here. I don't know. And I'm going with it. And it is like saying a prayer, right? When we say a prayer, or we talk to somebody, or we say, you know, somebody that we've lost, and we, you know, pray to them, whatever you think that means, you are saying some things, and it helps with closure. So for me to say how much I loved Goldie and how much I learned from her, and also to say I'm sorry, because I have a lot of blame for letting her outside and having that coyote take her. And someone says you do it in faith, right? I have complete faith that I was talking to Goldie. And here's the thing: if I wasn't, I don't care, because I believed I was. and there's been proven cases that if you're able to say I love you to someone before they die, that you actually grieve a little better, a little faster, a little better. That's why I'm very supportive. I really want people to be present and say I love you to their pet. I can't stand it during a euthanasia when someone says I'm sorry, because that's not words we should ever come out of our mouth. We should say I love you and thank you, right? And so that's what I was able to say to Goldie, and to have faith that she's okay. You know, we didn't belabor the process. We didn't. I did ask, was it fast? You know, but we didn't talk about the bad thing that happened. I just wanted to know she was okay, and she was. And I was able to say I love you, Goldie, and I miss you. And please come back in some dreams. She's not doing that, and I'm a little upset over it. So it provided me comfort. And so that's why I'm like, I don't want necessarily answers to things. Like for me, it was comfort. And however you get that comfort, everybody, whether it's working with Kelly and the wonderful pet loss support team, whether it's doing a memorial service, whether it's getting ashes back or not getting it, whatever it does that provides you comfort, go for it. And if anybody questions it, don't listen to them. Right? So, all right, Kelly, I'll be quiet now. So what was your experience?
No, that was a great story. And I think that you really hit the nail on the head. It's comfort, and it's just that connection, you know, feeling that we're still connected in such a spiritual way. In my situation, in my experience, has some similarities, and it does have some notable differences too. So the animal communicator that I met with was someone that a friend had also used, which was enough of a criteria for me. I was like, okay, let's do this. I looked at her website. I saw that she didn't want photos or names or anything like that. The only real guideline was if you have had or have multiple pets, kind of have someone in mind that you are hoping to connect with. And which I did. I did the assignment. I got on the phone call with someone in mind to connect with. For those that don't know, I actually have 5 dogs that have crossed over the Rainbow Bridge. So, you know, it was like, just pick someone. And so right away, straight out of the gate, her questions and kind of observations did not match up with the dog that I had in mind, but very specifically with a different one. And she was really honing in on some things, especially on how she passed, that were very specific, to the point where it was like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. And that dog's name is Abby. And we got a good kick out of Abby being the loudest to come through, because she probably was the loudest, and she was the oldest and first. And then as our conversation evolved from that, I could tell that she was really wanting to try to find a connection to maybe the one dog that I had in mind. And so maybe this is where it becomes like a little bit of a struggle, you know, when you've got multiple pets. for them, not for me. But so the things that she was saying and questioning, they weren't really pertaining to that dog that I had in mind. And sometimes we're a bit so generalized that when you have 5 dogs at the Rainbow Bridge and 3 dogs that live with me now, I can kind of, attribute many things to all of them. Um, but nonetheless, it was a fun conversation and, it was great and interesting. As we approached the end of our conversation, we were talking about my family's most recent loss, a dog named Shammy, and it was about a little over a year ago. And she said something actually that I wasn't anticipating. The animal communicator said, Shammy is telling me that she wasn't ready to go. And because she wasn't ready to go, she hasn't fully transitioned. And then she followed that up with, I'm just going to go ahead and let her know that she can go. And my immediate reaction was, that's wrong. That's not her. Just for a little backstory, she was almost 16. She had kidney disease and collapsing trachea, which, we know means a relentless cough and trouble breathing, lots of vet visits and medications. And after much consideration, my husband and I, opted to give her a really peaceful passing, which was beautiful. Chicken nuggets and fries and peanut butter cups outside on pillows. It was amazing. And I truly know in my heart that she ran to her siblings at the Rainbow Bridge and that she wasn't waiting over a year for someone on the phone to say you can go. It was
Right.
peaceful and she was ready. And so my biggest takeaways, and Dr. Mary, I'll ask you if you have any thoughts too, we're just that, along with getting a lot of recommendations and just maybe talking to other people who have used the animal communicator that you're considering, is just not to dwell on it, but just to give some thought to what if you heard something that you weren't totally ready to hear. You don't want it to completely derail your grief, which it didn't for me because I felt like that was wrong. And I'll tell you too, it doesn't deter me from talking to another.
Right.
I still felt like, the connection with Abby was there. And then, there were other things that didn't really match up and that just didn't really match up to Shammy.
Right. I know that's where I worry about sometimes because I don't want anybody to second guess something. And I went once to a pet loss support group years ago when my girl Sarissa died, and I just wanted to kind of like my communicator, check it out, right? Because if I'm going to send people there, this is way before we had you guys at their pet loss support team. And there was a woman there that had been going for over a year, and she was still dealing with her grief. And so they said, Mary, tell your story. So I said, oh, let's, Sarissa go. She had Cushing's and diabetes, and I let her go on a good day, and I was all positive, about the goodbye. I'm still sad, everybody. I still mourn all my pets still, and it's been years. But so this woman said, how dare you take away good days from your dog? It wasn't very supportive. So I said, I did take good days away from her. But more importantly, I took away really bad days. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, it will absolutely, everyone, feel too soon until it's too late. And your little girl, Shammy, had collapsing trachea. That is, when you can't breathe, the worst way to go. And what you prevented is that happening. You prevented her from suffocating or having distress. And so if you asked Shammy, she'd be like, yeah, this is a great day, but I always want to be with mom and dad and something like that, right? So that's where I think it gets a little tricky, if you will. And to be honest, right, I want to go on a good day when I don't even know what's happening. And if you went back and asked me, I'd be like, well, I was still having fun on Earth. I don't know, right? But so I think all of this, and someone was writing about her loss from eight months ago and that she still hasn't found comfort. It may take a while. I'm not saying I'm over Goldie, but I've lost 2 cats unexpectedly and I wasn't there. And I still mourn Goldie. Like I'm just looking, I have a stuffed animal that's Goldie way up there. I had a Pepsi made of her. So there's like a stuffed
Uh,
version because I let me adjust my camera now. Sorry. Because I didn't get a paw print, which I love paw prints. I didn't have ashes. I didn't have any of that. So like, I still am mourning it. So we may say, I love you. We may have a great goodbye, but it doesn't mean
mm,
we still are, sometimes they dig deep holes in our hearts. And that's the blessing of having them. Right. So anyway, I just think I think they could be helpful, just like going to church and praying, just
mhm.
like doing a drum circle on the beat, whatever that brings you comfort and faith that you're digging, like go for it. But just make sure it doesn't set you back, like what could have happened to you. And if it's okay, I'm going to share who I use. Her name is Candy Cooper. And I've since I can't post a message, I asked Savina in the back there to post a message so everybody has it. And you know what, I will probably reach out to Candy again for other things just to see how Goldie's doing. Like what else is new up there,
Yeah.
Goldie? Right? And it's fun. Like it's not. I don't want to be flip. I don't mean to be flippant about that. I just
Mhm.
mean like for me now, I'm. This isn't a healing thing. It's just now is an interesting thing, and I think that they've not disproven many things, and maybe this is one of them, right? So if it helps, I say go for it.
I totally agree. Absolutely. And, you take what is comforting to you from it. And I
Right,
think that's an important part of it.
right, and so I did, and I hope this has been helpful. Is it time, Kelly, that we could open up questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying
Awesome.
to see here if there are any already.
Okay, yeah, I don't see anything, and I only see it just says Facebook user for me, so it doesn't say a name. So,
Same. I don't have any names either.
okay, just in
Someone
case.
said that's a
I said,
very
well,
important point, not to let things set you back, but to embrace what feels right.
right. I mean, you could talk about
Mhm.
paw prints. I'll euthanize some pets, and owners are like, I don't want a paw print. I don't want that. And okay, like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna insist on a paw print, although I make good paw prints. So since I like to make them,
Yeah.
and I think they're nice
Yep.
to have, but um,
And
and
another thing, a lot of people, especially lately, we've seen a lot of people getting tattoos. Another thing, like it's not for everyone, but for those that do it, they find a lot of comfort in it. So if that's what works for you, maybe it's not something that you ever thought you would do. And here you are grieving your baby and you want a tattoo. Like that's okay.
that's okay. And it's also okay to not want ashes, to not want
Mhm.
things. Like, there's no like guidebook for perfection, like what the perfect moment is, grief and stuff like that. Our pets mean so many different things
Yeah.
to us. And I have been a part of such amazing goodbyes, and if anybody's had me help them before, like I've been to parties, I've been alone with just one other person. I've been alone in a house because they couldn't bear to be present. And although I prefer people to be present, I'm not going to judge them.
Mhm.
Like that's not my job. My
Yeah.
job is to make the best experience possible, whatever that means. Um, okay, let's see. I gotta say, I wanted to give my baby a piece of chocolate, and I didn't have any, and there wasn't time. She declined so fast, I couldn't let her suffer. So she didn't ever get a piece of chocolate. Well, I think Goldie would say there's some chocolate up there, although they never get hungry. I bet you there's some good chocolate up there. And I think that's a good point. When we are able to prepare and plan, we can have good
Mhm.
goodbyes. And I would love it if every dog could get a big chocolate cake or every cat lick some chocolate ice cream or something like that. All right, let's see. I've got one here. Did you talk to your communicator over the phone or Zoom? For me, I did mine all over the phone, and I've talked to Miss Cooper twice for two different things. So I've done it over the phone. What about you, Kelly?
Same. Mine was by phone as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's see. Have any of the communicators you worked with shared details about how the experience works for them? If it feels if it is just thoughts or feelings, or what it is like when they get communication. You know what? Great question. I did not, and I feel like she was just a third person in the conversation, like channeling. She wasn't like, okay, so Miss Cooper wasn't saying, like, talking like she's Goldie, like, hey mom, I'm doing well. Like, she wasn't talking like that. She was saying, oh, Goldie wants you to know. And then she says, Mary, do you have anything to say to Goldie? And I just verbally said what I needed to say to Goldie. So I don't know if that answers the questions, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and the woman that I spoke with as we began, she told me that it's not really like a two-way conversation, but more just, of her with their spirits. Is just that she is, getting some connections and some thoughts that she tries to articulate. And it's not really always easy to explain what she's trying to see or articulate. So I don't think it's same thing. I don't think it's like
Yeah.
a two-way conversation between them.
Right. I don't know. I just gotta say, I was amazed. And someone said here, oh, my screen is flying. You guys are adding some
Yeah.
good stuff here. This is Anne Marie. I had a reading. Things she knew were mind blowing. And she started with people. Do you only do animals? So like I said, mine was mind blowing too. What she said, I was like, how is she like? Did she know? How did she know? Someone said, I've been using Communicators for years to check in with my fur baby. I feel it is another tool to connect with them. See, that's what I'm going to do too. Like, I'm just going to do a little check-in. I got a lot up there. Duncan, Sarissa, Sam, most recently, Goldie, Bodie, Carcat. Like, I got a lot. I'm going to need like 2 hours. So, someone says I make them laugh in the most difficult time. Thank you. I hope so. I lost my baby a week ago. Dr. Mary, your children's book was amazing for my kids. What is your favorite memorial for your pets? That's hard. What's my favorite memorial? Because it's a little messy, sorry, but I've got all my paw prints, but I love nose prints. Those are not always easy to make. You know what? One of my favorite things, I'll do this. So this was Sam. Sam left me 2 years ago, and she was with she was in physical therapy for a couple days a week. And the physical therapy team put all these pictures together on this frame, and all of them wrote a message about Sam. And it's like one of my cherished things, because it just, other people got to enjoy Sam, also. And I've got a little painting up there that a friend of mine's little 5-year-old daughter made. I have a note from a family. I have so many great memories of not just my own angels, but the ones I helped cross. And I think every time I euthanized a pet, I always say hi to my Duncan, say hi to my Sam, and just whichever pet kind of comes to me. And so I'd always like say a little message. Do I know if that happens? I don't know, but you know what? It made me feel good. So that's where I'm going with.
Absolutely.
In pet loss, are you hearing that families are using pet communicators more now or in the past? Kelly, that's a good one for you.
I think that we are hearing that more. And, there's so much disenfranchised grief when we're talking about our pets, and not everyone gets it. And, this grief is really hard. I mean, as we always say, love is love and grief is grief. And it's a long journey, like the person that mentioned before, that it's been 8 months. There's no timetable. And
Right.
we're just trying to find things and ways to continue to the love in our present life. And I think more and more these days, people are reaching out to animal communicators to find a continued connection. And one thing that I think is important, and this is kind of where I was on, in my experience with the animal communicator, is that it also is important to me to remember that the connection to all of my babies is not in someone else. It does truly reside in my heart and in my spirit and in my home.
I like that. Yeah. Amen to that. I like
Yeah.
that. I always tell people, like, I hope memories of your pet bring a smile to your face.
Mm.
And I'm at that point now where they all bring smile. Do I cry every now and then still? I cry the house down still every now and then. But for the most part, they all bring smiles to my face. But that may take a long time, and it still brings tears to people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone had a difficulty with their goodbye, Sita, because she was so young. And how do I even begin to accept or understand this? Right. So although the majority of the families we help, it's older pets or ones with terminal illness, this is a terminal illness or a problem that for a younger pet. And these are so hard. And I always say, we borrow them from heaven and sometimes we have to give them back sooner than we want. And I believe in that. So sorry for people who don't believe in heaven. That's where I'm going, and they're all there. Well, I don't know if I'm going. I might have a little pit stop along the way. So someone said theirs was by phone also. So a lot are by phone. Thank you. Someone said that Goldie heard me. I lost my baby a week. Oh, wait, I already had that one. Do you feel like they're seeing the pets? I remembered her saying that she saw Goldie in a tree. And so I think she said she saw them, but I think it's just, they just send images to, they see pictures or something like that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I got a real gist of that answer either on mine.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think they could see them.
Yeah. And we just wanted to do this between me and Kelly, just talking, not necessarily talking to one communicator, although I did put mine in the I just wanted to be open about it because, I think people respect our opinions, so we have to be careful of our opinions that we give, but I'm totally open to it. Betsy says, Dr. Mary, I just want to say a warm thank you for all that you do. I'm tremendously happy to participate in this support group. I love it. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, we got some back and forth. I want to talk about my head tilt queen constantly, and I do not care who gets sick of it. I'm fine with that. Your head tilt queen. I've known a few of those little head tilters, and you know what? You're right. There was a great Instagram the other day, like the difference between a pet mom and a human mom, like something about people don't want to hear about your kid anymore, but it's okay. I forget what it was.
That's probably true. And so I see one question that might be a good one to kind of wrap up on, in that, do they tell you how they died? Does the animal communicator know how they died? And I can't tell if it was the same person, but follow-up question, did she confirm what had happened to Goldie?
Okay. So great question. And she did. So she confirmed what happened. And I know that is what happened, because you guys are going to be like, Mary, what were you thinking? But so my girl Goldie was actually about 90% paralyzed. So she was a slider. So a dog had bit her. When I was in general practice, she came to me because a dog had bit her over the back and paralyzed her. So she had a little bit of movement every now and then, but she could not jump. She couldn't get anywhere. So she had to go outside to go to the bathroom. So she'd go outside and scoot back and forth. And one day she wasn't there anymore. So like, I know that's what happened to her. And so, but I said that to Miss Cooper. I told her that I believe it's this. So she confirmed it to me. It wasn't a test. Like I said in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily a test for me. So I don't know if that helped.
Yeah. And I feel like my experience would go to show that, like, she didn't know how my dog passed, because she would have had a much better understanding of the situation itself.
Right. And remember, our passing with the euthanasia is simply an overdose of anesthesia. So they're sleeping. So many of us want our pets to pass in their sleep. That's what we can do. Right. Goldie did not pass in her sleep. And so that's what bothers me. Right. That's why we started this, is to make sure it's really good. So no, I am not a communicator. Not an animal communicator. I talk a lot, but that's about it. But I did post, as someone said, I did put the person that I used, and I think it is good what you said, Kelly, to get somebody else who might have a recommendation for it. And I think you've said that there have been a lot that has been shared on this group.
That is true. Yeah.
I think there are someone says there are some that are good and some that are not so good. 100%. Like, absolutely.
That's what I was going to say too. It's, any job, there are people that are more skilled than others.
Right.
And I think that's kind of par for the course, it goes the same for this career.
100%. And I know Miss Cooper, who I used, she's very big with horses. And I feel horses, man, they've got some good energy. Like I don't own a horse, but when I worked with horses in vet school, I loved it. I was just so calm. And so she does a lot with horses. So if anybody has horses, that I think she'd be really good with, right? So, well, Kelly, this has been, a nice topic. I've enjoyed talking with you and everybody. I hope it's been helpful to those that are watching, and we can certainly
I
do
hope
more
so
of these.
too. Absolutely. And it was important to me to tell this part of my story. And like I said before, not to deter anyone from thinking about it, but, just to know that we might not always hear exactly what we were planning on hearing. But that doesn't mean that you have to believe that part of it. Someone in the chat earlier said, you take what brings you comfort and it's okay to leave the rest. And I really do believe that's true.
I do too. I do too. And I love what someone just said. They don't say euthanasia, they run into the rainbows. And
Hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh,
Well,
Dr. Mary, thank you so much
you're
for being
welcome.
here with us
Invite me
today.
back anytime. I love
Okay.
your group. I love the whole team. You guys have been doing such an amazing job, and it's so supportive, and it's just such a wonderful Facebook group. So, and thank you for all the families that are supportive to each other. Like, this is
Absolutely.
vital to have that support, and because you don't always get it. A lot of people will be disenfranchised, and say like it's just a cat. Don't ever say
Not
that
here.
to me.
Not in this group. That
Don't ever
doesn't
say
happen.
that to me.
No.
So. All right, guys, and if any of you do have any dreams with your pets, tell them to say hi to Goldie for me.
I know I'm always jealous of people that have their pets in their dreams.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
And thank you to everyone else for joining us today. And Dr. Mary, I'm going to hold you to inviting you back.
Okay.
There will
No
be
worries.
another one.
All right. Bye, everybody.